Begin.
Hi, I'm Noah Alexander, and these are all my memes. And it goes, this is the beginning of the project, and then you travel upwards, you know, and then this one's kind of all in the middle, because it's directly related to most of this. And so we're going to start here at the Enlightenment, and I have one meme about how they were counseling and everything else, and most of them had the white wigs on. And this one talks about some of the people that are involved, and this one talks about a philosopher and mathematician called René Descartes, and he is responsible for like a whole branch of skepticism and philosophy. Descartes, not Descartes. And then these are the French Revolution. Oh wait, I didn't explain the color for you in this one. The Enlightenment has a yellow coloring because yellow is a more happier color, and this is making your mind more happy because you're feeding it more knowledge than you normally would in previous times. And this is the French Revolution, and it's purple because they got rid of the monarchy, so it kind of bled out. And yeah. And so this one is about the French estates. They had 3 estates. The first was the top one, the second and third. Third was mostly like regular people, the lower class. And then this one's about King Louis XIV, and he got the country into a lot of debt. And it was just a huge mess because he liked to wear fancy clothing, as you can see, and show off his thighs. And then this one is about the American Revolution and how the outcome of the Enlightenment and everything surrounding it was put into the American Revolution, because a lot of our things that we cared about came from European philosophers that were fought for in the Enlightenment and shown throughout all of this. And then next you have Napoleon Bonaparte over here. And he took over France through a coup d'état, and he was a great military man, and then he basically became a dictator, which was kind of like what they had with the king. And this one's talking about the guillotine that they used during the bloodier parts of the French Revolution, and they sought after it to have a more humane way to cut off people's heads, so they decided they're going to put them up there on a stand for crowds to see and cheer while their head gets cut off, which is more humane than an axe, if you look at it that way. And here we get to imperialism, and it's pink because a girl's color is pink. And if you think about it, every girl wants every part of their life to be perfect, and that's what the countries wanted. That's why they took over other countries economically and everything else. So here's the steam engine, and they would use that to pump water out of mines, and then they boil it and they have steam and they pump it some more. So basically they're burning the water to get the other water out. And this is talking about direct and indirect rule, which is what countries would decide. Direct rule was whenever they would have it to where they would rule directly, like the country they took over. Like if Britain took over Africa, then Britain would send people to Africa in order to maintain it. But indirect rule is when they have their own leaders still intact. They just have to answer to somebody from Britain. And then I have the International African Association here, which was created for African rights inside of Africa because they were getting tired of all the Europeans coming in, and they controlled some of the areas that Europe didn't get to yet. Then if you come over here, you have the Russo-Japanese War, and it's talking about how every time Russia goes to war, it's always for like a year or less than a year, proved several times. And that one was a fight for Manchuria, and that was right after Japanese got isolationism. This one's about China and the opium trade and the opium wars they got into. China was being forced to buy opium from Britain for a lot of things, and they have wars over because they didn't want to do that anymore. And now this nationalism rose, and then socialism, and then communism, which is what they have today. And then you have India right here, and Indian soldiers would fight for the Britain and the British around that area. And at one point they decided that they were going to use animal grease in order to make the bullets fly faster, which gave them it allowed for less damage to the gun. And being that they are of their religion, they found it offensive to use animal grease and pig fat for those kind of things, just because they found it really disgusting. And it's kind of like the lowest of the low. You can't do anything worse. So there was a huge revolt, and the British stomped it, and they took complete control over Africa, or India. Before that they had indirect rule, but now they have direct rule. And then if you get to over here, it talks about how America were the imperialists of the New World, and that's really taken over a lot of our western states, or taking away other things from Spain and French and everywhere else and buying it all from them. And then we basically just kicked the Indians out. And then right here we talk about the Diamond Wars, that were in South Africa. The Dutch were first there, but then they got kicked out by the British and they went out to the Orange River, and then they found diamonds. So the Dutch tried to come back down, and they still had some land with diamonds on it, but they wanted more land. So they fought a war over it, and of course the British won because they're ridiculous. And then you have, this is one is just about imperialism in the whole. And imperialism is basically whenever a country decides to dominate another country, socially, economically, politically, anything, and it literally just opens up its sphere of influence and causes them to take in what their country's beliefs are, whether that be through religious things, through economic things, or anything else that you could think of. And then this one is talking about nationalism, which was what caused a lot of the imperialism. And nationalism is just where you want your own country to progress more and more and more and more, and it's just not caring about what others think, and that leads to communism in a lot of ways. And here we have our scientific revolution, and it's basically where everybody's just split in half, and they're just blabbing stuff at each other just because they don't really care what the other one thinks, because science and church just disputed a lot in this time. Thank you.